All right, a few last notes here on the solubility lab. So a lot of you are doing just fine on the first parts where you're looking at the group 1 compounds and realizing that they're soluble, and you're continuing through all of these sections to look at what could be insoluble and generating your solubility rules, and that's going really well. When you get to the next part where you are looking at your precipitation reactions, make sure when you do this part that when you fill in this chart here, you write down what you see. So for example, if you see for a sort of a tan, cloudy solution being generated, you need to write down what it is you actually see so that you can use this part for the next portion where you identify the unknowns. So for example, if I were to take and I were to mix together let's say sodium hydroxide with silver nitrate and do this, and I'm going to press play, and I'm going to look at this, and we're going to look at it, and we're going to go through the whole video so that we don't make assumptions as we go, because it starts out a fairly light color, but then it gets into a darker shade. And so my advice when you do this is when you take a look and you write that one down, you might want to say starts tan and looks like milky coffee when it's done, so that you can recognize it when it occurs again. All right, with that in mind, you're going to go to the next part, and when you go to the next part here, you're going to do the mystery solutions. Now, you have some options on the mystery solutions. Your solution has to be one of these 5, and so your answer on this is going to be solution 1, and you're going to write down what that solution is. And you're going to tell me, is it whatever it might be? So let me just put NaBr. I don't know that, but you're going to write down what they are, solution 2, etc. So that's what your answer is going to look like. Now, more importantly, how are you going to generate this? Well, there's a chart here where you're going to fill this in, but I personally didn't find this the best way to do it. So here's what I did. I took solution 1, and then I ran it through all its possibilities so that I could isolate exactly what solution 1 did and see there. So if I took solution 1 and I mixed it with everything else, so I'm going to take solution 1 and I'm going to I'm going to load this one, and I'm going to play it. And so we put solution 1 in, and we give it a good stir, and it just happens to be the exact same thing we had before. All right, so what do we know? We know that when we look at solution 1, one of these is going to be silver, and the other silver nitrate, and the other one is going to be here with mixing it with 2 is going to be potassium hydroxide. Now the key here is we don't want to mix up which one is which. So what we're going to do then is we're going to make sure that we can isolate all of the reactions of each of these. So what I would do is I would take and make sure I know what every single reaction of silver does, what every reaction of cobalt does, what every reaction of the copper does, and then go from there. So what I would do now is I would go to 1 and pick 3. And then I would run its reaction as well. And when I do that, I'm going to see what that one does. So when I do that one, I see that there's no reaction, nothing is happening, and then I'm going to continue from there. So once you've done all of those, what you're going to end up with is, and what I ended up with, is a chart that looked somewhat like, if I put a table here, and I do my chart, I'm going to have a descriptor. So I would take and I would do the whole thing where I've got my chart here so that it looks like this, so that I have a complete chart of all of my possible reactions. So if I do this, I'm going to take my silver nitrate and I'm going to write down all of its possible reactions. So if I did that, and notice the phosphate that we had in the first one, we aren't going to repeat. And I'm going to do that so that I know what every single one looks like. And if I do it like this, what I'm likely to do is not confuse them. So if I take and just look at that first table, I might confuse which one is potassium hydroxide and which one is silver nitrate. If I take and run through every single reaction, so once I was done with solution 1, I would then go to solution 2, and I would do the same thing over again. And I would start at the beginning with solution 2 and run it all the way through. So I have a complete set of reactions. And because this is so quick to do all of these, it's going to make it very straightforward when you're done to correctly identify them. So if you have finished this lab, go back and relook at it, making sure you've run through all of the reactions and you know exactly how silver reacts with everything, exactly how cobalt reacts with everything, and you don't take any shortcuts or make any assumptions.